Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another STL History Live. I'm Tammy Goldman, Director of Tourism and Group Sales at MHS, and today I'm your behind the scenes assistant. Before we begin, let me just take a few moments to share my gratitude for all the support we receive from the Zoo Museum Tax District. We are sincerely grateful for your tax contributions and especially those in our audience that are members. We so appreciate your continued support. For any of you that are interested in becoming a member, if we haven't twisted your arm yet, please do so and become a member and support us. I'll feature a link to the page on our website that you can copy and paste a little later in the program. Before we get started, let me just point out a few technical attributes for our Zoom program today. Well, one, this presentation today will be about 30 or 40 minutes, and then we'll follow it up with some question and answer time. You can submit your questions through the Q&A tab, which you can find on the toolbar. Typically, it's at the bottom of your screen. Sometimes you might see it at the top, but there's a toolbar. And if you can submit your questions towards the end of the program, and I'll remind you, our presenter will do his best to get to as many as he can. And then lastly, letting you know that we have closed captioning today. That can also be turned on, and you'll find the button along the toolbar and on your screen. So today you've tuned in for another one we call our tour takeovers. Since we're unable to get on a bus right now, we're going to do the very best next thing, and that's use the magic of technology. This is going to transport you to places that, yes, we would have taken you on our motor coaches, but today you'll just get to sit back and enjoy on your screen. So keep in mind, I have asked the impossible of my lovely and wonderful tour guides to condense a 2 or 4 or 6 hour program into just 30 minutes. I'm confident that David can do it today. Today's program is a discovery tour, the Great River Confluence, the Mississippi and Missouri Rivers. This is by our wonderful curator of environmental life, David Lobig. So David, right now you can share your screen and take it away.
Hi, Tammy. Hi, everybody. It's weird talking to an audience that I can't see. It's very unusual for me. So I'm going to hopefully take you through the confluence area in a way that's really more meaningful than you might be able to do on a bus, because you'll be able to see it from different vantage points and over a lot of time that we couldn't really manage in a single day. Some of these images I'm showing you are over the course of years and different seasons. So I think this will be a great advantage to us today. I hope so. I wanted to say that this is all in connection with Mighty Mississippi, the exhibit that is still up in one of our first floor galleries in the museum, the Missouri History Museum. And when we open again in June, we're in June 20th, by goodness, that's tomorrow. We will be taking comers by reservation only in order to manage the flow and numbers of people there. So please come see Mighty Mississippi, where much of this information can be found, and other information about the river can be found in interesting ways. So this is the Great Rivers Confluence Tour. We're going to look at the Missouri and the Mississippi today, where they come together. This is, of course, the Mississippi River and its watershed imposed on the North American continent. And you can see that it's really the center of the United States. As Mark Twain says, the basin of the Mississippi is the body of the nation. And I think that's very much true today. And of course—
David, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I'm so
yes,
sorry.
No
if
problem.
You can just hit the share screen. It's not showing up yet.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I forgot to do that. Yeah. So backing up to just show you a couple of those other images we were looking at when I was talking about the exhibit. Please come see Mighty Mississippi at the Missouri History Museum. This is the watershed of the Mississippi River in the North American continent. That dark blue line in the middle is is the river itself, with all those tributaries coming in like little tendrils from all different directions. This map shows the watershed divided into several segments: the Missouri Basin and the Upper Mississippi River Basin, which is in green. Those are really the big influences for us where we are here today. That's the center of the Mississippi River, is where we're located. The emblem of the fleur-de-lis there in the middle is where we are, where St. Louis is, and where this great confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi come together is also where the Illinois River is coming in just above. You can see on this enhanced satellite map of the topography and some of the rivers flowing down into those major tributaries. So if you don't know where St. Louis is, it's just below those two junctures on the Mississippi River, the line that runs all the way through. But here's another map, an older map, 1730s by Jean-Baptiste d'Anville. It was published in Paris a little bit later, and this is a detail that shows all these rivers and why they were so important. These are the landmarks for people in the fur trade era, and of course for Native Americans before that. It's up the Missouri River, named after the Missouri Indians, that one of the most important tribal groups of the Siouan-speaking language lived, and also the Missouri, and also the Osage, mostly to the south of the Missouri River, which comes in on your left. And this is our map of, our flag of St. Louis, which is very much like a map, showing the two rivers coming together, the Missouri and the Mississippi, and that bezel in the middle of the fleur-de-lis, which indicates just how significant the rivers are to St. Louis. So another view, another Landsat view, an old Landsat view enhanced, shows the metropolitan area. So this is probably 30 years old or something like that, but it looks very much like that today. All these established areas, a lot of rectilinear marks on there for agriculture and for the built-up environment. The yellow circle shows where St. Louis is. So it's just downstream of that confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi rivers. We couldn't get any closer. People couldn't build really any closer in such a privileged spot. St. Louis is elevated off the floodplain, and many other spots would be inundated by these two rivers at different periods of flood. So the fur trade settlers who established the community of St. Louis knew this. And of course, during the 19th century, as the city grew, the community grew into a city, you see steamboats entering the water and really enabling people to transport up and down the rivers, both people and goods. So here's an image of St. Louis in the 1850s, mid 1850s, and people went from that landing down at the riverfront, which is where the arch is today, and went upstream. And from this aerial view, you can kind of imagine that, again, the importance of the Mississippi, because if you went upstream from here, you could go around that bend into the Missouri River, and that's that juncture is what advantages St. Louis. So people, of course, were initially fur trading with the Native Americans, these European colonists, and the Americans who came after them, displacing the Native Americans, were trading with by way of boats other than steamboats. They also used keel boats, which predated steamboats by some time. And this is an image of a steamboat coming down the Mississippi River at St. Louis in the 1850s. So here's a map by Martin Plamondon II, and it was a cartographer who spent about 30 years mapping the Lewis and Clark Trail, based his modern maps, superimposing them on top of the Lewis and Clark maps, which were a little difficult to translate into modern terms, but Clark was an excellent cartographer, and Martin took those maps in the just recently, the late 20th century and into the 21st century, and superimposed the two. So in this map, you can see the Missouri River going upstream on the Missouri River is going to the top of the map. And it's shown darkened and clear lines. The dashed lines, which show a thinner river just to the left, is the river as it is today. And so you can see how much more narrow the river has gotten and how much more constrained it's gotten as we've managed it. Excuse me, I have a dog in the room, as people often do these days. So in this map, you see north is pointing to the right, and I'm going to change that in a minute for you, but you see people who came up the Mississippi River by that yellow arrow and around the bend and up the Missouri, because that is the longest river in the North American continent, and it allows you great transit all the way up into the Rockies and up to the northern, what are now the northern states. You can also, of course, go up the Mississippi River towards what's now Minnesota and Wisconsin. But if you turn the map as the way we're normally seeing a map with north pointing up, it looks more like this. And I've placed on here all the sites that we'll be going to today. Columbia Bottom Conservation Area is the first. And we will go to all those other sites that you see on that map. And we'll come back to this as a reference point. One of the best ways to see all these rivers is from the air. And if we ever get back into an airplane again, you'll be able to see. I hope you'll strain out the window, reach over and look over your flying partner's seats in order to see the rivers down below, as I always do, and take pictures and become annoying. But it's really a beautiful sight if there's a clear sky, and you can make sense of where the Mississippi is and the Missouri is and all these other waterways adjacent. So here is another way that I really like to travel on the rivers, and I highly encourage people to get out there on the rivers in a boat, in a paddle boat of some kind or another, you know, a canoe or kayak. Now it is safer than you think it is, but you always need to go with somebody who's much more experienced and somebody who has knowledge of how to do that. So there's a great livery here in St. Louis, Big Muddy Adventures, that helps a lot of people get out on the rivers in these large Voyager canoes, and that's a shot of some people at near Alton. Another way is a driving tour, so that's what we would be doing if we had a bus. We'd be driving around, and it would take quite a while to get to all these places that normally are connected very easily through the waterways themselves. So driving is kind of circuitous, but it is a fine way to do it, and I'll show you how to get to all these places. So we're going to have as our traveling companion here, Layla and Monty, and Monty's in the room with me making noise occasionally, and I might invite him to share his thoughts on this in a few minutes. So here's another main map that I'm going to base our travels on. It shows the rivers, the Missouri River coming in from the left and the Mississippi River coming from the upper left and going down to the south. Also, there's the Merrimack on there. And the floodplains, those are in orange. So that's where the river wants to go. These rivers want to find their floodplains when they have excess precipitation, excess water in them, and it's sort of foolhardy to build on those floodplains, yet we do nonetheless. So you can see St. Louis and St. Charles on the left, and Alton in the upper right about 2 o'clock. Those are all on high ground and usually quite secure in a flood. 99% of them are secure in the flood, unlike other communities. So we're going to go to that star, which is the Columbia Bottom Conservation Area. And that's an amazing place. It's the largest acreage that we'll be visiting today. And it is a great vantage point. So it's just upriver from St. Louis, not too far. And as you saw in the earlier map, and here's a typical Google Maps view, so you can see the entrance point with the red marker, Columbia Bottom Conservation Area. Also, you can see the other markers for the other places we'll be going today. So the conservation area is over 4,000 acres of land that was acquired in order to create a diverse riparian landscape, trying to preserve the wetlands, the bottomland hardwoods, prairie, and so forth. And there's a lot of cropland there because some people still do farm on that. And so there's public access facilities of various kinds. There are roads, trails, and river accesses, and lots of few viewing areas and different use zones. So you always want to call ahead if there's a weather condition that you might be concerned about. And there are also seasonal hunting of various kinds in these different managed zones. You want to know about that too. So always check if you can, if there's any question of that. So this is a map of the site itself with the boundary outlined there. The green space is where we're where we're looking at the conservation area. It's wrapped around by, on this map, the Missouri River. The Mississippi River is on the left-hand side, just coming in a little bit at the bottom right-hand side, bottom right corner. So this is, again, the juncture of the Mississippi and the Missouri rivers. The confluence of them is in the upper right side, and we'll see that again in a few minutes. So these are all the trails and so forth. So that's the Missouri River flowing in the direction of these arrows and going downstream towards the Mississippi. And there's an overlay of some of the special use areas. And the trails are marked pretty clearly. There's a lot of bird watching stands and plenty of places to put in with your boats. So this has been, this area, the whole region has long been a hunting area for migratory waterfowl. And hunters have been using that, the wetlands for a long time, doing that, of course, even before colonial settlement, of course, and also fishing, amazing, abundant fishing. So there's Monty and Layla finding their way. So you do want to know when the hunting season is before you, I'm going to say we were training our dogs there because that's training as in for hunting is legal, but you have to keep the dogs on a leash otherwise. Remember that, please. So he's wearing an orange vest in order to protect himself. So lots of flatland. This is a wetland, a flood plain. So that is why there's almost no rise in the landscape. Look at how flat that is. This is in the wintertime. The previous one was in the, excuse me, in the fall. And you can see Monty's running and running as far as he can there towards those fields. And in the springtime, of course, lots of flowers come up. These are invasive henbit, but lots of flowers, and great place to see spring flowers in May and early June in the woods along here. So there are a lot of woods, and then it's a wonderful place to do some woodland walks. But mostly it's this wetland area where you see lots of ducks. And I don't have many photographs of the waterfowl, but there are vantage points also. There's some amenities constructed, so you can see Confluence Point. That's what they're looking at. So we're going to go there in a little bit. And that's what those people are looking off to, that green space over there across the water. And they have these boat ramps, plenty of boat ramps we can put in. So as I said before, Mark Twain recognized this is really the body of the nation, and we're the center of it right here in this Mississippi River Basin. So there are other amenities like those benches and didactic panels, lots of teaching and learning there about not just the wildlife, but also about history. So there are various sites where the Conservation Department has posted very interesting and helpful materials. So you can walk along the Mississippi River as we're doing here. Layla's walking upstream, but we're looking downstream on the Mississippi. And you can go around and go up the Missouri River, along the Missouri River as it flows in. You can relax in high water. This is almost no bank here. The greenery goes right into the water on a high water level season. And this is in the fall, and you can see lots of marks of animals. There's badger, apparently about 2010. A fellow was taking photographs out there and found badger. I wouldn't have believed would exist out there. But also lots of beaver, so you can see that. These are all beaver chewed downed trees, and off in the distance there you can see where the Mississippi is going downstream at this point, and you can see that little spit of land there, and that I'll show you in a minute. It divides the only portion of the Mississippi that has no modifications on it. The main channel here is not regulated for commercial traffic because it's really not navigable. Downstream a little bit from here is the Chain of Rocks, but there's the Chain of Rocks Canal on the left-hand side or to the east towards Illinois that you can go down with your boats and lock through. There's a lock and dam on the Chain of Rocks Canal so that boats can descend and ascend the Mississippi River at that point and avoid those rocks and the Chain of Rocks, as we call them near St. Louis. So looking upstream, I'm sorry, still looking downstream, I was going to show you a couple of images of the Chain of Rocks Canal. So this is actually out in the water, and you can see that spit of land more clearly here. And this is what the canal looks like with boats passing through. So this was put in the 20th century, the 1930s, I think, in order to get around those rocks. So back out into the Mississippi River, and there's one of the barge tows. And if you're in a boat, you have to be careful of those. You really want to stay out of the main channel where those big boats go. You can't play with big boats if you're in a little boat. So beware of that. And if you're looking upstream, now you can see Confluence Point again in Illinois on the other side of the Mississippi River. Missouri River is coming in on the left, and Mississippi is on the right. So we're looking upstream in Confluence Point, where we're going to visit in a little bit. So now we're going to go to the migratory bird sanctuary at Riverlands. So this was constructed a few years ago. It was actually dedicated in 2011. And it's managed by the Army Corps of Engineers overall, but it's an interesting partnership. So here's our orientation map again, the stars where we're going. And I'll show you that older map again that shows the overlay of where the river used to be. So this actually this green lozenge shape up in the upper center is where we're going, and it would have been well within the water back in Lewis and Clark's time, as you can see. So we're leaving the Columbia Bottom Conservation Area on the bottom and going up to the Riverlands Migratory Bird Sanctuary. Here's a Google map, which you're probably all familiar with, and the blue line is probably the easiest and fastest way to get from point A to point B in this case. So Columbia Bottom is where we're leaving and going up to Riverlands. So we're going to take Highway 67 up to a turnoff just before you get to the Clark Bridge. But so to get out of Columbia Bottoms, it's a little complicated, but you got to use a Strautman Road, which is right there at Columbia Bottoms. It changes to Spanish Pond Road and Bellefontaine Road and to New Jamestown Road until it gets to Missouri 367 North, and 367 or Lewis and Clark Boulevard continues on as US 67 to the Riverlands Road. So the Migratory Bird Sanctuary at Riverlands is not quite as large as the Columbia Bottom, where we just were. It's 3,700 acres, but it also has lots of trails, lots of hiking trails, bottomland forests, marshes, and prairies. So mostly wetland prairie restoration there, and not so much forest, but it's really, really marvelous for seeing birds. And so there are various ways to do that, various amenities that have been built by, I think largely many of these things have been built by the Boy Scouts over the years. So they have different refuge management areas, and rules apply during different seasons as to what you can and cannot do there. Some areas you cannot go when certain animals are breeding, birds. So if you want to contact any of these folks, they can help you with any of those restrictions. So the Riverlands Migratory Bird Sanctuary looks a little bit like this in close-up. You can see Highway 67 on the map, but let me show you. There's the project office for the Army Corps of Engineers, and that yellow rectangle shows you Highway 67 as it goes across the Mississippi River on the Clark Bridge and into Alton, Illinois. So you want to be turning off just before you get to the Clark Bridge. Remember that the Mississippi flows downstream from the upper left to the lower right here, and we're above the Missouri River confluence at this point. So at Riverlands, you can see various bodies of backwater that have been created by some of the lock and dam, the Mel Price Lock and Dam that's there. That's number 26 on the Mississippi River. And this is the Mel Price Lock and Dam when you're looking at it, still at Riverlands on the Missouri side of the state of Missouri side of the river of the Mississippi, and you're looking back up at it. A lot of people go there to fish. It's a great place to fish just around the dam. And that's looking at it from the north. from one of the trails, from the Ellis Island hiking trail that you can spend an hour or two on and see marvelous birds and other animals. This is, of course, another way to get around there. It's really easy to paddle around in this backwater area. It does no real strong current of any kind. And lots of grasslands, lots of places where birds and other animals like beaver and muskrat build lodges. And of course, in the summertime, it's a lush green space, very rich soil, and lots of water to help things grow. So you'll want to prepare for mosquitoes and that sort of thing. I never really have had a problem with that though. So you definitely want to take sunscreen in the summertime though. And this is pelicans, great white pelicans out on the water, also blue heron. And right at Riverlands, there's also the Audubon Center. And so this is a wonderful place to go and be educated about what the wildlife is in this place. So again, there's that road, Riverlands Way, that comes off of Highway 67 just before you go across the Clark Bridge. And that's the main channel out there where the blue arrow is. This is the building. It's very accessible, very easy to get in and out of. Everything's flat and level, and it's a great respite. Lots of air conditioning, lots of educational materials inside. It's a nice little museum. Very interesting museum. Tells you a lot about the different birds that use the migratory flyway. Here, you know, in our part of the area that's around these rivers, there's 60% of the migratory bird species are to be found in North America, and 40% of the migratory waterfowl. So it's over 300 species of birds that are coming through this area. You can see in the spotting scopes and out the windows there. And lots of people take cameras and photograph what they, lots of bird watching, lots of photography, nature photography. It's a great place for educating children and students as well. These are trumpeter swans, which I photographed last fall. Amazingly large birds that migrate all the way up to the Arctic, in the Arctic Circle. And here's a little segment of what the Army Corps of Engineers does in this area as they manage some of these backwaters.
Ecosystem is everything that you see around you about the river. And it's not just about habitat for fish and feathers type stuff, but it's also ecosystem goods and services, which is clean water, nutrient retention, sedimentation, stuff that makes farming better. Restoring everything makes everyone will benefit from having a healthy ecosystem. For here in the middle of Mississippi River, one thing that we are really trying to restore are the side channels. Side channels are important habitat for the fisheries community, as well as just nutrient cycling. And a lot of what we have done for river training structures to maintain navigation, we kind of closed off those side channels. And now we are actually going back and trying to reopen them or improve that connectivity. So we have that floodplain connectivity, we have habitat, we have ways to restore, help with sediment accumulation, and overall just improve diversity. And if we have a more diverse river, we'll have resiliency for that river in order for when unexpected changes come, it'll be able to actually respond and rebound to any bad stuff. It's healthier and more resilient. So we're trying to get that diversity back to the river so doesn't all look the same.
So that was Kat McCain. She's a wildlife biologist who manages some of these projects for the Army Corps of Engineers in this region, and really immensely helpful to us when we were putting together the Mighty Mississippi exhibit. So this is one of those backwater channels she was talking about, and at these places you'll see, if you're very fortunate, you'll see least terns, which are a migratory species that are threatened in the United States. Their numbers have plummeted, but they're trying to be salvaged and protected here in this area because they traditionally or historically have been there building nests on sandbars. So the Army Corps of Engineers has built sandbars, and you can watch these little places on barges where the terns are protected as they nest in their season. And there's a tern cam, which you can go online And you can look this up online. The turn can for the West Alton area is in this Riverland site. So we're going to go to Ted and Pat Jones Confluence State Park next. And this is just downstream from where we were. So Edward Ted and Pat Jones Confluence Point State Park. It's a mouthful. I usually just say Confluence Point, but Pat and Edward Ted Jones were wonderful people to help donate the funds necessary to purchase some of this land a few years ago. Incredibly important to protect this area. I mean, this is the area that defines who we are in this region, and it was super important to preserve this confluence point. So again, it's a smaller number of acreage, but it's easy to get to from Riverlands. You just go down the road from Riverlands, the Red Schoolhouse Road, on an easement road, you can get to the site. And there's no office there, so that office that's listed in the number is not actually at this site. It would be periodically flooded, as it is today, if that were the case. But here's a map of the site, and you can see the red arrows are on the road that takes you down to the point of the Missouri and the Mississippi River coming together. And they are flowing downstream to converge right there at that point. So there's a parking lot. It's easy to get to. So this is, we've been traveling a bit, and I haven't given you the mileage, but that first jaunt to Riverlands from Columbia Bottoms was about 18 minutes or 10 miles, maybe 11 miles. And down to Confluence Point from Riverlands is another 16 minutes. So it's about 14.6 miles, but it's not on a highway. So you'll see a much more silted area here as the rivers deposit their loads, and you can see footprints of various animals. That was deer and dog previously, and this is, I'm not sure, it looks like maybe muskrat because of maybe some webbing there. It could be raccoon. And I've seen indigo buntings and beautiful other beautiful birds there, just amazing. And of course in winter it's also very interesting like this. Just you can see more clearly through the trees and the undergrowth in the wintertime than you can in the summer. But downstream it looks like that, and this is something familiar to us now. That's Columbia Bottom off in the distance. Previously you could look back and see Confluence Point from Columbia Bottom. So this gives you your orientation, I hope. Again, that's a more close-up view of what we're looking at Columbia Bottom, and even closer, if you have really good eyes or a camera that can adjust the distance, you can see the Columbia Bottom viewing platform where there was a picture of the people looking out previously. So looking upstream, this is the Missouri River looking upstream, a turbulent river. Doesn't look like it here, but it's flowing fast. It's got a lot more volume. And just up the way, there's a conservation or wildlife preservation area named Cora Island, which has been protected. And that's a very significant point just upstream. Down upstream, of course, is where Lewis and Clark went in 1804 on the Lewis and Clark expedition from Wood River campsite, or River du Bois campsite, which is nearby on the Illinois side of the Mississippi. So looking downstream at Confluence Point, this is some of the built structure. You can see this just last year, I think this was. And the two people on the left, my daughter and wife and dogs, are standing at the point. And there's a lot of didactic panels and a lot of educational material around here as well, just like there was at Columbia Bottoms, to help you understand where you are. And this is even further back in time. It's a different dog. And that's when the Confluence Point structure that has been built there by the Army Corps, by the parks, has, before it was flooded. And there's the Mississippi River and there's the Missouri River. There it is in flood. It's the same site. And you're looking down towards the Chain of Rocks Canal and the main channel on the right. So the Missouri and the Mississippi don't really mix. Right here, you can actually kind of see the line of demarcation. The Missouri River has much more sediment, and you can see it in this picture too. It's got a darker brown color, and it stays that way all the way down to St. Louis. It's just an amazing thing. The power of the Missouri River as it dumps its load into the Mississippi. So there's Confluence Point looking backwards up the Missouri River side, and And there's a pole there that helps you get an understanding of what it was like in flooding during 1993, the largest flood we've had on record. So that the top of the pole is how high the water was at that time in this area. So there you can see it in winter and in summer. And again, there's a lot of information to learn things. If you like geeking out on that kind of thing, there's plenty to learn and plenty of education about what lives there that you might look for. So beware of flooding when you go to these places, because like I said, they are in the floodplain, most of it. And this is the place where some of the didactic panels are, and the restroom and the parking lot. So those cars that you saw earlier would be in that water out there. And that's what it looks like today. It's flooded, you can't get there right now. It's been flooded since last year. 2019 was a horrible year, a very high year for water. This is a breach in one of the levees that protect that area. But it is secure. They're going to be opening it back up again, cleaning it out and opening it back up. They hope, with the COVID thing and so forth, hard to say, but by the end of this summer 2020. So when it does flood, there's a lot of debris that's deposited. Sometimes even the skeletons of fish. This is a gar. And so it's an unusual thing to go back to time and time again. Confluence Point is just an amazing thing. Everybody should know about in the area. I think that it's a point that we all know about in our minds, but we rarely visit. And it's wonderful to go back time and time again to see it change over time. So that's looking at it from the water point of view and looking upstream with the Mississippi on the right and Missouri on the left. And we're going to go back up the Mississippi River side there, and we're going to go across that bridge. So that's the Clark Bridge, Highway 67, US 67 at Riverlands. We're going to go up the road that we came in on, the Red Schoolhouse Road, and out the Riverlands Way, and go onto Highway 67 and across the bridge to the left, which is Alton. And there's a star for the National Great Rivers Research and Education Center. That's where we're going to go next. And that's it on that old map. So you could see that it was probably dry back in Lewis and Clark's time, with River Dubois wrapping around it. And this is an amazing place. I'm just fascinated with this place. It's so much what I think all of us need to know more about, is the ecology of this place, why water is so important, how water works in this area. This is the Illinois Natural History Survey and Lewis and Clark Community College in Godfrey, Illinois, coming together and enabling this kind of research to happen. They call this particular site the Costello Confluence Field Station. That's what this building is called. They have a few other sites. They're studying the rivers, and they're doing it with various ways through the Great Rivers Ecological Observatory Network and some other systems. So this GREON, or Great Rivers Ecological Observatory Network, is something they kind of the matrix for cooperative work with various scientists and getting information out to various people to help understand what the turbidity is of the river, the pH, the chemical composition. Problems with plastics is what they're studying right now. Very interesting things. So we're going to come down the Great River Road. The Mississippi River is flowing downstream with us. We're going to come down that road from the Clark Bridge. And that's what the site looks like from the air. It's built to be a very green, economical building. And it's a really interesting engineering model, I think, in and of itself. But inside you see all these different ways in which scientists and researchers are employing different ways of measuring and monitoring the river. So this is one of those GREON units, one of those Great Rivers Ecological Observatory units that they put out in the river, and they measure some of the aspects of the river to try to understand changes that occur over time in different seasons and with pollution and that sort of thing. This one's actually at Riverlands. It was anchored there one day. So from the roof of that building, which you saw a moment ago, you can look off to the north and you can see the Melvin Price Locks and Dam at Alton. So Alton's beyond this, but you can see the lock and dam quite clearly from that photo. And we're just going to go up the road just a little bit. So this is very easy to get upstream from there. you just go up the road that you came in on, off of the Great Rivers Road. And so there's some contact information for you. It's open 9 to 5, 7 days a week. And there are tours of the Loxon Dam at these appointed hours, 10 o'clock and 1 and 3 o'clock. So remember, the river's flowing downstream, but we're going to go backwards now up of the Berm Highway, or Highway 143 as it's called here, or the Great River Road. It's got multiple names, to the Loxon Dam. So again, we just are using a little access road next to the 143 actually, because these two things are connected together. These two entities are connected on the river side of the highway. And we are going to go to that location where the oval is, the red oval. There's the big Loxon Dam. You can't miss that, Loxon Dam. And that's where Riverlands is, across the way where we were previously. And that's with the red arrow, that is Highway 67 going across the Clark Bridge. And the Mississippi River is flowing through the lock downstream and through the dam downstream. So that's the Great Rivers Museum from the outside. Again, a very accessible building. Again, a great respite in hot summertime. If you want to hop, skip, and jump from one place to another, you'll want to pay attention to where the air conditioning is, I guess. So during the heat of the year. But this is what it looks like inside. Marvelous little museum, very compact. Has so much going on in there. You know, videos and interactives of all kinds. It's got marvelous dioramas. And you can also choose to tour the Loxon Dam. As I said, the Loxon Dam are toured by the staff, the Army Corps of Engineers staff there, take you through. And that was a trip that was a few years ago by the Missouri History Museum, took some folks up there, on a bus tour up there. So this is the lock opening up, and this is a boat passing through. And rather than take the time to see us going through there, just listen to all that wind. We're up pretty high, and you get a lot of weather up here, but it's a marvelous thing to watch a boat lock through. So that concludes our tour, and if you were going by paddle, then you would probably be pretty tired by now. So you'd be really grateful to get out of this river and back home again, or if you were flying, I suppose you would too. So this is, again, connected to the Mighty Mississippi River exhibit at the Missouri History Museum. I hope you come and see that exhibit. And I do want to tell you a little bit before I turn it over to questions, that the National Great Rivers Research and Education Center, it does have staff, but you'll want to call ahead and arrange for somebody to tour you around. It's not something that's open to the general public as a rule. It's an education center, but they do have people that are commonly able to do that. So, thank you.
So while we're waiting for some questions to come through, David, if you would unshare this,
Yep.
I will share
Yep.
my screen.
Yep.
We might have to do a little song and dance to get everybody ready to start sending in their questions. What songs do you know? No, just kidding.
River songs. Oh, Dean Klinkenberg might be out there. He knows all the river songs.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about the paddling company that you've worked with, and I know we worked with in the exhibit, Big Muddy.
Yeah, so Big Muddy has been so generous in its time and energy in getting people out on the river. Now, they have to, support themselves, so they do have organized tours. There's a fee for that. Periodically, people can go out in these large Voyageur canoes, is what they're called. So they're mostly fiberglass canoes, but some of them are wood with fiberglass barriers, or waterproofed. And they're just, it's an amazing experience. I mean, to be in a boat, you saw there was, I don't know what, 4 or 5 people in that one boat, but some of these boats are much larger than that. So you feel like you're pretty safe. You feel like you're in something solid, and you're with an experienced person. So Mike Clark has been doing this for years on his own, and he started sharing this with other people. Rui Awitz has really helped organize that organization, and they also help with river cleanups, and maybe on another tour, if this is popular, I'll show people what it was like to go to Mozambique Island a few years ago. Just an amazing experience to paddle across the Mississippi River, up and down it. We've also been on the Missouri River, and as I said, a very turbulent river, a little bit scarier to be on, and just amazing, wonderful way to see these rivers that you really feel connected to them. It's really much different than walking by them or putting your feet in them. I showed that photo of my daughter and a dog standing in the river with a foot in the Mississippi and a foot in the Missouri River at Confluence Point. But when you put in a boat, I mean, you're actually on that river. You can reach down and touch it, and you're moving against it with a paddle. And if you don't have the physical strength, they do have people to help you with that. But it's just a marvelous experience.
I look forward to trying that sometime, because I think even beginners can do it with them because they have experienced guides.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it's the way to go. And if you get the bug, then you might end up wanting to go again and again. Yeah. There are people that go out on smaller boats, smaller canoes and kayaks. That takes a lot more experience. There's a St. Louis Paddle Club here. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry I didn't plug them earlier. I'll probably hear about that. But there's a St. Louis Paddle Club that takes canoes and kayaks out on the rivers, and they are very, very helpful, helping you learn how to do it. Willing to find a way to get you into a boat, even if you don't have one. Maybe lend you one or something possibly. And they do train people from time to time. They actually go up there to that Ellis Island area that I showed a little while ago, where it's kind of the Alton Slough is what it's called. And they paddle around there at Riverlands, and they paddle around, show people how to manage their canoes or kayaks, and what the safety measures are. You're always wearing a life jacket. You always have a personal protection gear on to make sure that you're safe that way. And I'm not a good swimmer, so I still say, hey, do it. It's pretty cool.
Well, I think that could be a tour sometime in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks as though we are just about out of time. I think you've given a wonderful program. It's extremely thorough, so don't worry that we don't have any questions. I think you answered them all.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you so
Good
much,
to
David,
hear.
and thank all of you for tuning in today. Again, we would love, if you're not a member, to become a member, and you can see the link listed on the screen right now. And after we close this, you'll see a brief survey that will appear in your browser. If you can take a few minutes to complete that, we'd really appreciate it. And lastly, hopefully you'll join us next week. We have a full lineup on Tuesday and Friday, as well as Thursday evening. So please come back again and again and again. We really love these programs and love providing them to you. And again, your information that you provide to us in the survey is extremely beneficial. So please take a few minutes just to complete that. And with that, I'll say thank you again to David. And we thank all of you for tuning in. Have a great weekend.